So we talk about diarrhea. A couple of things we can do with diarrhea is a lot of times you have to understand why the body is doing what it's doing. So the body is usually getting exposed to some kind of bacteria, parasite, some type of toxin that is very irritating on the gut lining. And the body is thinking, how can we dilute whatever that compound is, and flush it out of the body as fast as possible? So what the body's typically doing is saying, okay, let's bring a whole bunch of fluid and water into this system here, and let's flush it out. Let's increase motility time. Now, what that's going to do is it's going to screw up your electrolytes a lot of times. It's going to screw up your hydration status, and it's also going to make it hard to absorb nutrients. So what's the first thing we do? So the first thing is we can put some binders in so we can bind up those toxins so they're less irritating, less inflammatory. So our different binders could be activated charcoal, bentonite clay, different zeolites, different pectins. These fibers are great because they'll bind up that toxin and it'll make it less mobile, less inflammatory. It kind of puts straitjackets or handcuffs on it, right? And the next thing we're going to do is make sure we are hydrating, because the solution to pollution is dilution. So we want to make sure there is enough water there so we can dilute and not get dehydrated. And then the next thing is make sure there's enough electrolytes. Electrolytes are a big deal, because if we are low in sodium and potassium and magnesium, when you start having a lot of these bugs, what you start to notice is you may start getting dizzy or have vertigo or heart palpitations or just feel totally off. And a lot of that can be from a lot of the electrolyte issues due to the infection. And so if we get the electrolytes right, the hydration right, and then we also provide some good binders in there, that can prevent these toxins, one, from being as mobile and being as inflammatory, and that can make a better environment for the body to move the bowels out slower without losing all the nutrients as well.
Yeah, good point. And this is kind of an art, right? This is where the art comes in of medicine, when you're trying to integrate these things at the right time that someone can tolerate. So right now, if I try to give her a big cup of electrolytes, she might not be able to, because she's had trouble keeping down the liquid. So you kind of have to know when. Like, you might hear this and go, oh my God, I'm going to do all the things because I want to get better, but there can be an order of operations. So I think get your gut calmed down first. If you can go an hour or two, if you're in an active vomiting situation, if you can go an hour or two without vomiting, that might be, the coast might be clear enough for you to try to work some of the other stuff in, whether it's liquid tinctures to kill things, or if you're doing something like a biocidin or other antimicrobial drops we use, the dosage is usually so small that I think you can keep it down, because you're not going to have to do a ton of drops, right? If you could just do like 5 drops, that's tiny. Your body's barely going to recognize that. And if it's at the tongue, I don't think that's going to create more vomiting. But that's kind of where the art comes in, and paying attention to what's going on.
I agree. Doing some of the liquid drops are wonderful, because if you can't do a full capsule, hopefully you can, right? But if you can't, getting some liquid drops in there of some herbals can be super helpful. Maybe some silver. Also, like you mentioned, if you really have a hard time keeping things down, that's where a good IV fluids, IV electrolytes, IV nutrients may be a good idea, because that bypasses the whole digestive system. So then it gets right into your bloodstream and does what it has to do. So you can find some of these liquid IV services. They'll come to your house, or find a facility near you where you can pop in, get it done. Ideally, if it's this acute, you're probably better off paying the money and having someone come to your house. You probably feel a lot better. And I think it's better than going to an ER, unless you're, really in rough shape, then go to an ER. But if not, you're better off doing it at home, just because there's less infectious material, at home than in a hospital, right? So I think that's a good strategy out of the gates for sure.
Well, and to take it a step further, not only that, but when you do these mobile services, like I did this last summer, you're able to customize what you want. So hospital's not going to put glutathione in the IV like they did.
No.
They're not going to give you 10 grams of vitamin C like I requested. So you're going to get a much, much better menu, if you will, of nutrients than if you were to go to the hospital.